Chapter 5. The Terrible Tractors. As the sun rose the next morning, Boggis and Bunce and Bean were still digging. They had dug a hole so deep that you could have put a house into it, but they had not yet come to the end of the fox's tunnel. They were all very tired and cross. "Dang and blast," said Boggis. "Whose rotten idea was this?" "Bean's idea," said Bunce. Boggis and Bunce both stared at Bean. Bean took another swig of cider, and then put the flask back into his pocket without offering it to the others. "Listen," he said. "I want that fox. I'm going to get that fox. I'm not giving in until I've strung him over my front porch, dead as a dumpling." "We can't get him out by digging, that's for sure," said Fat Boggis. "I've had enough of digging." Bunce, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked up at Bean and says, "You got any more stupid ideas, then?" "What?" said Bean. "I can't hear you." Bean never took a bath. He never washed, and as a result his ear holes were clogged with all kinds of muck and wax and bits of chewing gum, dead flies and stuff like that. This made him deaf. "Speak louder," he said to Bunce. When Bunce shouted back, "Got any more stupid ideas?" Bean rubbed the back of his neck with a dirty finger. He had a boil coming there and it itched. "What we need on this job," he said, "is machines, mechanical shovels. We'll have him out in 5 minutes with mechanical shovels." This was a pretty good idea, and the other two had to admit it. "All right then," said Bean, taking charge. "Boggis, you stay here, and you see that that fox does not escape. Bunce and I will go and fetch our machinery, and if he tries to get out, shoot him quick." The long, thin Bean walked away. The tiny Bunce trotted after him. The fat Boggis stayed where he was with his gun pointing at the foxhole. Soon, 2 enormous caterpillar tractors with mechanical shovels on their front ends came clanking into the wood. Bean was driving one, Bunce the other. The machines were both black. They were murderous, brutal-looking monsters. "Here we go, then," shouted Bean. "Death to the fox!" shouted Bunce. The machines went to work, biting huge mouthfuls of soil out of the hill. The big tree under which Mr. Fox had dug his hole the first time was toppled like a matchstick. On all sides, rocks were sent flying, and trees were falling, and the noise was deafening. Down in the tunnel, the foxes crouched, listening to the terrible clanging and banging overhead. What's happening, Dad?" cried the small foxes. "What are they doing?" Mr. Fox didn't know what was happening or what they were doing. "It's an earthquake!" cried Mrs. Fox. "Look," said one of the small foxes, "our tunnel's gotten shorter. I can see daylight." They all looked around, and yes, the mouth of the tunnel was only a few feet away from them now. And in the circle of daylight beyond them they could see the huge black tractors almost on top of them. "Tractors!" shouted Mr. Fox, "and mechanical shovels! Dig for your lives! Dig! Dig! Dig!"